Have you ever wished that you had a master floral designer that you could have stand beside you step by step and teach you the process of floral design? My name is Kirby Holt. I'm a master floral designer with more than 25 years of experience in the business, and I want to show you step by step how to create beautiful floral designs with the kits from myfloraldesign.com. I hope you enjoy this video and this series. I have another great arrangement for you today, and this one is going to be an all-white garden style arrangement featuring a lot of different kinds of flowers, but all in shades of white and ivory. I'm going to start with this footed metal container. We've already glued the styrofoam, have the moss in there for you. So as you follow along with your kit and all of the items that you'll need are packed into that kit, you'll see that everything just works together just like it does on the video. I'm going to start with this bush of white larkspur, and we're just going to put the whole bush in, and I'm going to sink it in about 1 inch, and then I'm not going to worry about too much fluffing and straightening now, because as we go and working and building the arrangement, that will kind of fall in place, and then at the end we can kind of straighten, make sure everything is exactly where we want it to be. But you could almost imagine a larkspur plant growing in your garden with the grasses around it and then just popped up, and this style of arrangement really is almost like an English garden style arrangement or a landscape design where things are growing in clumps, much the way it does in a garden when we make a flower garden or landscape our yards. Now the next element that I will put in here will be this white hydrangea, and I'm just going to harvest those off of this bush of hydrangea and cut those down near the stem. That we'll just discard. We've cut all of those away from that, and then I will separate some of these blooms are smaller, some are larger. We'll separate those and get them in single stems and then go forward as we use those. So in this one you're going to have 3 of the larger blooms and 4 of the smaller blooms. And at first we're going to take this one and cut it about 3 inches with the leaf off and use this larger stem down toward the bottom. Now I'm not gluing any of these insertions in, but you could easily have your hot glue gun handy and just put a little dab of glue on the bottom of every stem as you put it in, and that way everything would be glued in securely. As long as you put at least ½ inch or to 1 inch of stem into the styrofoam, that should not wiggle around or come out. But just to be more secure, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you wanted to especially have a piece that's going to be transported a lot from point to point. If you're going to make an arrangement, give it as a gift and pack it into a box, you may want to glue those insertions together so that you do not find them being displaced and wiggling around. So I've kind of stair-stepped those large hydrangea, 1, 2, and then on the other side of the larkspur, the 3rd one. Now I'm going to use some of these smaller ones to just place in around that and kind of strengthen that planted look, like they're just growing together. Again, I'm going to cut that stem off. Now this leaf, I'm seeing the back, and I don't want to see the back, so I'm going to just take that off and put it back on where I'm seeing only the front of the leaf. And if it comes off, you can fill that little stem in there and put that leaf back on. Now again, I want to just make sure, check where those leaves are, make sure we're seeing the front and not the back. I'm going to come here and place this one just above that one. So we've kind of created a growth pattern of that white hydrangea through the larkspur and down the side of the arrangement. I have just a few extra leaves, so I'm going to tuck those in instead of wasting those. And the bottom of this container is a little bit flexible, so as I put things in, it may wobble just a little bit, and you can kind of hear it creaking, but everything is glued in well, and there's no stability problem with that. Now the second grouping I'm going to put in are these small peonies, or almost like a peony ranunculus, but it's actually a small peony. And I'm going to separate those out so that I have the blooms, at least on part of them, separated. Again, I've harvested those low, and I think we will leave 2 blooms on that base so we can bring those up into that larkspur in the center of the arrangement. You can see, I'll turn that so you can see what I've done, but I've come in right in next to that larkspur and inserted that small peony there. And then I'm going to take the stem where that smaller bloom that's lower is and kind of pull it off to the side so we don't lose that visually, so that it becomes a feature and it's not lost in there. The leaves are wired so we can kind of shape those and put them where we want them to be. Now, I'm going to spin that just a little bit, and where we did that growth pattern of hydrangea on one side, we're going to do something similar to that on the other side with these peonies. Peonies, hydrangea, larkspur, they're all wonderful gardeny flowers that put together really remind us of a spring garden, really an English garden, and the design is really mimicking that English garden style. If you can imagine a little English cottage with flowers growing all the way around, then that's what we're trying to create here. I'm going to cut this one kind of short so that I can bring it and put it in kind of low. And then I'm going to use those foliages. I'll trim that little nub off. We can put those foliages out here as well. And I have a space right in here, and I want to bring that one right into that space, and then maybe bring the other one around right over here. So you can see we've already filled in roughly all the way around the arrangement, and then we're going to just continue filling in with more design elements. Now I have this white lavender, and of course lavender usually is lavender, but with permanent design, we can tweak the colors, and this one, while it's the lavender flower, it's actually an ivory color. I'm going to separate those just a little bit, and I think I'm going to take 2 stems of that off, and then we will put this cluster of lavender, let's see here, maybe right in this space here, next to that one single ranunculus that we have. We'll let that height come up off of the side there, and then we will use these to kind of base it in and bring a little bit of that lavender on down to the edge of the container. Now another thing that we have here are these moss-covered orbs, and I have wood picks already glued into those. I'm going to do that so that the round part is toward the bottom and the pick is at the top, and just insert those, basically one on each side of the arrangement, and they really act to just bring a little bit of texture in. Bring that on around. So they're not perfectly equidistant, but they just create a little bit of basing effect. Now, one more element that we have to go in here are some of the branches, and I love to use branches in a design like this because it adds a real feel to it. It makes it look more real, more authentic. So anytime I use branches, I always bend and twist those so we get a more natural look. Especially any manufactured flowers, you want to give them a bend or a twist to make sure that they aren't straight, because nothing in nature is perfectly straight. There's always a little bend or a little twist to it. If you think of a pine tree, even though it looks very, very straight, if you go stand right beside that pine tree, you'll see that it goes up. There's always going to be a little bending and twisting. Now we took one of these stems off so that we can use it in lower, but I'm using 2 up high, and I'm just going to pull that peony back and push that in to this one side, and then I can spin the arrangement just a little bit and put this in on the other side. skin, bending, twisting, getting it out so that we get the full impact of those branches. Now, to finish out the basing, we have a bush of the Dusty Miller, and if you've watched very many of the videos on our YouTube channel, My Floral Design, then you know that this is a very popular foliage, and I use it in a lot of the arrangements, especially when they're white or featuring white and ivory flowers, because of the whitish color of this foliage. And in nature, it really looks just like this. And one of the things about rabbit's ear, Dusty Miller, they last for a long, long time. They'll dry, but instead of turning brown, they keep this white color for a long time. So it's one of those elements you can use even out of nature and get to enjoy it after its life is over and the pliableness of it is gone. It may be brittle, but it'll still keep that color for a long time. And I think that's a great feature about it. So I often will bring these lower leaves and push them up so that we kind of crown out that foliage at the top, because as you put those stems down, you'll see that those leaves, if we used, for instance, this one, those bottom leaves would disappear into the arrangement. By pulling them up to the top, we get the full impact. And I want to create these in little clusters just around the arrangement so that it doesn't look too distributed. It will be distributed. It's kind of our final basing item. But by putting the orbs and then some of the foliages from the other flowers, we create a more natural look than we would if we had this foliage, the Dusty Miller, all the way around. When I look at these leaves, I almost think of lace, one because of its white color. But, you know, lace, while very soft, it has all of those edges. And that's kind of what I see when I look at this Dusty Miller. It almost looks lacy. I'm going to turn that so you can see. Continuing to, and here we have two of those orbs so that they're near enough to each other that you can see them at the same time. So I'm going to create just a little more separation both with that lavender and with that Dusty Miller so that I don't like to see like two cow eyes sticking out of the arrangement. And I want to make sure that I soften and don't get that effect. A great place to use an arrangement like this would be a centerpiece on a table, but because it is so upright, often if I do something like this on a dining table, I will put a pair of candlesticks or maybe a grouping of candlesticks on each side of it, and that way we soften the fact that it is so upright, especially on a longer table. It would also work well on a credenza, on a mantle. It would be great on a fireplace if you had the arrangement on one end and maybe a pair of candlesticks or a lamp or something at the other end. Okay, I'm just going to spin this around so you can see it from every side. Now I have one little space here. I had placed those larkspur blooms in first and said we'd come back and just kind of adjust those as we needed to. So I'm going to just pull that one in just a little bit here. The main thing I'm doing now is just finishing it off, checking the final placements and making sure that it's pretty from every angle that we look at it. Okay? So you can see no matter what angle you're looking at a different kind of flower, an orb, piece of foliage, but when it comes together it creates a really wonderful effect for the eye, for a lot of different applications to decorate your home or your office. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you'll continue to join us on My Floral Design on YouTube and watch these tutorials. Go to our website and order the kits. We really try to make this simple for you to be able to open your box, pull out the products, and follow along step by step in the design process and learn how to do this as we go along. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I encourage you to browse the library of arrangements and videos on our website, myfloraldesign.com.